Hello, September. May you be more productive than August was. Okay, I think I know what I'm doing with this dress now, and I just want to walk myself through it so I'll have a record, because I have not made new pattern pieces for the adjustments I am making. As a reminder, I am making this dress pattern, but it is too small for me, so I am both making it larger and adding this drawstring tie belt situation from this pattern that was on the front of this pattern to the back of this dress so that it will be adjustable. So what I think I have figured out is that I need to cut the waist back, not on the grain line as it calls for. I'm actually matching up the side seam with the grain line, but I am going to extend it to where this line is for the tie belt, which I took from the other pattern. And then I'm going to cut straight, follow this pin to here, so this will end up 2 inches longer than the side seams for the waist front. And I'm going to cut this out as is from here and then extend it to the fold of the fabric. Oh, and I'm also extending this piece to the fold, and I think I'm just going to gather all of this into the neckline because the neckline already gets bound with bias. So it's going to be gathered both in the front and in the back at the neckline. And I think I'm going to be okay with that. And like I said, I'm taking the long tie belt pieces from the other pattern. I am going to cut out the short sleeve. I have both sleeves set here because I wanted to make sure I have enough space. So I'm using this pattern to give me the boundary of the head of the sleeve on one side and then follow this curve and make the sleeve, cut it the other side. I didn't quite explain here that I was making the sleeve wider to accommodate my actual arm because the sleeve pattern that I did use for the gray blouse was too small. But it will be the short sleeve length because then, if I come over here, hold on just a second, I needed 2 hands for that, but if I bring the end of my fabric that was hanging off the cutting table up to the bottom of the short sleeve, I will have enough to get the full skirt pieces. This is the skirt front, and it fits on half of my remaining fabric because it's folded up here, and then I will cut the back pieces from the other side underneath. And I'm just going to cut those as big rectangles. They will come to this line once again, and that will actually be perfect because then the top of the skirt in the back will be the exact same width as the bottom of the back piece. And I did also measure from the fold to the side seam of the waist front, and then I added 1/2 inch for seam allowance and measured from the selvage to the side seam for the skirt front. So I know that those will match up as well. I had initially wanted to put the skirt front on the fold and have the fold down the center front of the skirt, but this actually was a much better use of my fabric because I'm going to need to use this leftover bit to cut the bias binding for the neckline. And I have measured, I can get this full piece. It does work. I will have enough space to get this bias piece. I just can't lay it out right now because I need to cut this off and unfold it. But since the pattern already has a seam down the center front of the skirt and it's meant to be there, I think I'm going to be okay with the skirt being cut not on the fold, because I do want this dress to look like the pattern envelope from the front. it's going to look very different from the back because it's going to be gathered. Let's see, is there a back view? Yeah, so it will be gathered along the neckline and at the waist in the back. So instead of having these cute little tucks and darts in the skirt, it will just all be gathered. It'll be a lot of fullness in the back, but I actually like how that will look, I think. I should also be able to get pockets out of what's left of this after I cut the bias binding for the neckline. So that's my plan. I actually have pretty high hopes for being able to get a lot done in September because my kids are now both in school, which is very exciting. My son started preschool last week, and the preschool is the same hours as the elementary school. So both of my kids are now out of the house for the same hours of the day, which is kind of amazing. Now that should mean more time to sew, right? So far in practice that has not occurred because I have been trying to spend my mornings both working on editing videos because I have quite a large backlog of videos to get through, and in getting my house back in order from the summer. First I was gone for almost a month, and then after I got back and hadn't really recovered from all of my travel and unpacking and putting everything where it's supposed to go and doing all the laundry, I got sick and wasn't really able to do much for several days. The house definitely degraded while I was ill and unable to get anything done. So currently I'm playing catch up. So I've still only really been sewing in the afternoons from like 1 to 3 because then I need to go pick up my son from preschool and be back in time for the bus to get my daughter. So I actually have 15 minutes less of sewing time than I did when my son was at home, but I had childcare from 1 to 3:15. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Basically, I'm hoping I'll have more time to sew, but currently that has not been the case. Anyway, this fabric was really nice to cut out. It does not wrinkle at all, and as I've said before, I really enjoyed making the gray rayon blouse, so I'm hoping that the same pattern for a dress is going to go together as well as that one did. Of course, with the adjustments I'm making, who knows? I did cut out the sleeves as long as I could get them after cutting out the skirt to the length that the pattern called for. So they are now midway between the short sleeve and the 3/4 sleeve. They're probably going to end up right above my elbow, and I'm okay with that. So it's not going to be either of these, but a secret third thing, and that's just gonna have to be good enough. I decided to go ahead and make the skirt from the remaining 3 yards of my daisies fabric, mainly because my machine was still threaded with the lime green. And if I don't do it now, I will lose all interest in ever working with this fabric again and not have the skirt, and I do want to have the skirt, so I'm gonna make it. It did turn out that lime green was the right color to use. I don't know if you can see it, but it really blends in because it is the background of the flowers. So that worked out really well for the daisies dress. It doesn't have a lot of visible top stitching, but it does along the hem and you really can't see it at all. So I'm very happy with my thread color choice, and I didn't have to buy any thread, so that was good. I am making this skirt from several large gathered rectangles, so it's just going to be a big gathered skirt. I actually totally forgot that I said I was going to make it as a circle skirt, and I was editing that video in which I said I was going to make it a circle skirt last night and rewatched that footage, and I had already cut out the rectangle panels, so scrapping that idea entirely. So I did have 3 full yards of the fabric left when I was finished cutting out the Daisy's dress, except for the waist ties. I did cut those both out from the selvage edges so that I wouldn't have to hem one of the edges, because this fabric does have a great selvage. The printing goes all the way to the edge, and I've washed this fabric and it didn't shrink at the selvage, which some fabrics do. So that's another reason why it's good to wash fabric before you're going to sew with it, to see how it reacts, and sometimes the selvage can be usable. So when I was ready to cut out this skirt, I did not have 3 yards of the full width left. I had about 2.5, so I cut that width into 2 very long panels, and then from what remained, where I had a large chunk in the center of the yardage with the selvage edges cut off, I pulled threads to get the grain line and cut another rectangle the same width as the other 2. So it's a 3rd panel that's just over a yard long. And this one will be my front for my skirt, and these 2 are going to be the back. And that does mean that the back is going to be much more densely gathered than the front. I tend to like my skirts that way, and it is going to be a split side pocket placket skirt. And I went ahead and made a new pattern piece for the pocket plackets, because I have been using this one and it works fine, and usually I only have about this much ×4 fabric remaining to make the pockets, but I had quite a bit this time after I cut the waistbands from the remaining yard that I cut the 3rd front panel from. So I was able to get 4 pocket pieces wider and just a little bit longer, not quite an inch longer, but I do want to use this pocket from now on whenever possible when I'm making my pocket placket skirts. You can see I have the instructions for making it a split side skirt. Like, these are the smallest waistbands that I can use to make the skirt, and sometimes I only have that much. So this is the seam that gets put into the side seam of the skirt, and then this is where it gets sewn around the bottom, and it gets left open at the top here. So I generally overlock all around the edge for the pockets before I sew them together, so that this is a finished edge without hemming it and adding extra bulk. So I just transferred those markings onto my new pocket pattern, and this will give me a lot more coverage on the inside with the split. Of course, this is how they will be sewn into the skirt. So this will give me more coverage with this being the pocket opening and this being attached to the top front waistband, and then the other waistband coming over it. I just keep adding to my stash of various pockets, some of which I've taken from printed patterns that I had, but quite a bit I have made up. I have a lot of pockets. Oh well, one can never have too many pockets or pocket patterns, it seems. Okay, I'm going to finish this skirt today. Oh yeah, remember those leaders and enders I was using at my mom's house that she is making into a quilt? Well, I started working on one of my own. I have this little baggie of scraps that are all half-square triangles, so they must be left over from someone else's quilting project. I've had them for years. So now I'm sewing them together whenever I need a leader or ender, and I'm pressing them when I happen to be at the ironing board already. I measured my hem using the end of my cutting table, where I have used my label maker to mark pre-measured intervals, so I can always get a quick yardage count on my fabric, or in this case, my hem. This one measured just over 4 yards, so I knew I would need to check my rolls of seam tape, since the packaged ones come in 3-yard lengths. These vintage rolls of seam tape all came from an estate sale years ago. And as it happened, I had the perfect color. Okay, I didn't quite get the skirt finished, but I am very close. It's a giant tube right now, so I'm wrangling it. I just finished sewing all of the gathering stitches into the top. It is already hemmed, so that part is done. And now I just need to pin it, pull up the gathers, and match it to the waistband. And then it will be done. Well, buttons and buttonholes, and then it will be done. Side note, this fabric is actually really lovely to work with. Look how well it holds a crease. It irons so beautifully, and I appreciate that about a fabric. So I'm feeling a lot better about this skirt than I was about the dress from the same fabric. I really do think it was the pattern that was driving me crazy. And I am very excited that I am going to have this in my wardrobe. I'm already thinking of tops that I can pair it with, besides just the teal blouses that I made. I've got tops in this color. I've got some in this purple, which is barely in it, but it's in there enough that I think I can get away with it. So it will be fun, I think, to mix and match. Okay, I'm going to finish this skirt today. Just doing a quick try on before I finish the waistband to make sure it fits and pockets are situated properly. Woo! Yes! This is very swooshy and I really love it. Oh, yes. I feel like it is almost as full as a circle skirt would have been, and this way there was no fabric wasted, like at all. I have so few scraps left. My goal is always to use up my fabric and materials as efficiently as possible, so I always like to have the smallest ball of remaining scraps possible. This one is 2 fists, which is pretty good. Okay, I love it. So I really love densely gathered skirts, but I didn't want all of that bulk in the waistband, so I kind of squished it flat by going over it multiple times with the overlock stitch and once with the straight stitch right along the edge, just to flatten all of those gathered bumps down and make it easier to sew the other side of the waistband over top. Okay, it is functionally done, meaning everything is attached, it has a hem. I just need to hand stitch the interior of the waistband. I don't want to do that by machine because I have experience with this type of fabric and I know that sewing the interior of the waistband, which is not interfaced, to the exterior, which is interfaced, will be a nightmare. I will get so many little bumps and bubbles on the inside because that will pucker and stretch like crazy. So I'm going to do it by hand, which means I'm not going to do it right now. I have about half an hour left in my sewing studio today, and I can do the hand sewing at any point inside while my family is home. Right now I have, solitude. So I think I'm going to dive right into the black floral dress and see how far I can get in half an hour. And then tomorrow I will sew the buttonholes, and I already have the perfect buttons, so that's exciting. Okay, I've really got to get serious now. I want to work on the black floral dress because that's what I want to make and have and wear. However, I need to work on the white linen bias slips because I keep just rewashing the same 5 or 6 that I have over and over, and I need more. I need to have to do laundry less frequently. So today I'm going to try to power through. I've got 1 full-length slip, 2 shorter camisoles that I know will work because they're the pattern that is tried and true, doesn't need any alteration, and is fine. And then I have this one that I made and then was too small and I had to cut myself out of it. I have 1 piece of bias cut about 4-inch wide linen that I can piece in, hopefully, and make it work. And then I have the already very heavily pieced full-length slip that I made from the scraps of all my remaining linen that was cut on the bias in weird ways. And because this one is made from the same pattern as the one that doesn't fit, I am not sure if it is going to fit with my alterations, which were just cutting down from the top about 4 inches, I believe, to have the top start at a wider point because it's tapered, so that hopefully it will now fit. And I am contemplating, in order to just give myself a little extra width, instead of doing flat felled seams like I normally would for the sides, I might just use the same insertion lace to construct it. So have the lace be the side seams. And then my sides won't have to overlap, so I'll get some extra width that way. The only problem with that approach is that the lace does not stretch the way the fabric will because it's on the bias. But I think that's a risk I'm going to have to take. I'm scared though. So I think I'm going to try it out first with the failed one because I don't have anything to lose with this one if it ends up not working. But there's another wrinkle. So I'm using one of the camisoles that I've already sewn all of the construction seams together just to gauge how wide my finished piece needs to be. So this is how wide it was. Obviously not big enough. So if I'm going to add a piece in the middle, it needs to be quite wide. And this is the only piece I have that is large enough on the bias. So even with using the insertion lace to piece that in, I don't think that will be big enough, because if I do, it's still going to be 2 inches narrower than my goal. So what I'm thinking is if I cut this piece in half and then taper these sides down to meet, so it'll just be a low back, shorter camisole, because it's already shorter than the hip length one, so this will be probably just below waist length. So I think that's what I'm going to do. And it's slightly wider at the bottom if I do it this way. So I'll just cut this here, then I'll have 2 pieces I can add in. One here and one here, with 3 bands of insertion lace. And once I do that, I can kind of gauge how the lace behaves and if it negatively impacts the stretchability of the bias cut. And then I'll be able to decide what to do about this one. Well, I probably could have predicted this, but It's too big now. And I'm very annoyed because I tried it on, did not film that for obvious reasons, but I pinched out the excess in the back and it amounted to basically one of these panels. I could have just put in one panel and it could have been the full length instead of tapering it to meet in the back. But now I've cut my one piece of bias that I can insert in half, and I don't have the full length anymore. So, like, I can take out one panel, sure, but it's going to be a lot shorter in the back. And it dips down a lot lower than I was expecting to. This is so frustrating. I don't know why I started with this one. I should have started with one that's just simple and easy. In fact, I should have started with the one that is already constructed and just needs the lace along the front and the binding along the back and the hem and the straps. I should have started with this one. Ah! I'm gonna go do this one now. Okay, I'm back at it. I did finish the neckline lace. Nicely, not exactly neatly, hemmed on the inside and hemmed on the bottom. So all I need to do now is finish the top back edge, which I do with vintage lace hem binding, hem tape. And because the whole thing is cut on the bias, I do cut the lace just a couple of inches shorter than the total length of the top edge and then ease it in so that's not going to stretch out of shape. I have also decided I am going to go ahead and fix the failed camisole. Unfortunately, I won't be able to reuse this bit of lace because it's going to be too short for where I am now going to join the two side inserts together. So I measured one of these panels because, like I said, it was too big by one entire panel. When I was wearing it, I was able to pinch it together like that, basically. So rather than remove one, because they're cut diagonally now and that would just be a huge pain, I am going to measure out from the center edge 2 inches, mark a line, and then sew a new strip of insertion lace along that line, then cut off and sew the other edge to here. So I will just be taking out this middle bit and I will use it for something else later on, I don't know. Okay, just tried it on for fit and it does, so yay. Obviously I'm wearing it over my shirt, but hopefully you can see it does still come down pretty low in the back, but I think it's going to be okay. And I'm considering making this a halter top with one strap across the neck and leaving the back low, possibly because I have some, well, at least one idea for an outfit I want to make with a halter top and low back, and it would be nice to have something to wear under it. But that will be a future secret project. You could probably guess what it is, but I'm not going to tell. Good news, I do think that my insertion lace pieced slip is going to work with the alterations that I have made, chopping off the top 4-ish inches according to the new pattern that I made, because I have it laid on top of this new insertion lace pieced camisole that I now know does fit. And it looks like this will, in fact, fit me. I do think I'm going to go ahead and piece the side seams with the insertion lace like I talked about, because it did not seem that adding these at the back affected the way the fabric stretches in a negative way. So I have fixed the camisole, and I'm fairly confident that the slip will also work. Okay, I have 2 finished, except for the straps, new camisoles. The only unfortunate thing is I don't think I have enough leftover linen scraps to make all of the straps for these slips and camisoles, because I have 3 camisoles and 2 slips, so 5. I need 5 sets of straps, and they each need to be roughly 16 inches long. And let's see, I have that along 2 straight of grain edges. I might be able to get 2 sets of straps out of these 2 pieces, possibly. But those are my biggest 2 pieces. I've got a few bias pieces. I don't really want to do bias straps, but I could if it comes to it. But I'm actually thinking I might just make some of the straps out of plain woven cotton. But I am going to try to get the straps for the 2 that I have finished first so that I have something to wear tomorrow without having to do laundry. I am on my last slip once again. I keep having to do laundry. Okay, success! I was able to get 2 sets of straps out of those 2 straight edges. So I sewed 1 set of straps, the shorter one that was just 16 inches, to the normal basic camisole. And I did try it on and confirm it fits. And then I have just pinned the longer straps, which came out to about 19 inches long, to the pieced camisole. And I'm not going to sew them on yet. In fact, I'm not going to sew them on at all, because you may recall from me talking about these slips and camisoles in a previous video that I had one that I made adjustable straps for, with buttons on the straps and buttonholes on the front top corners, so that I could either wear them straight from the back over the shoulder, or I could crisscross them in the back and button them on the other side of the front. But I had to redo those because one of the straps got destroyed in the washing machine, and I don't want that to happen again. But it occurred to me that I could just put buttons and buttonholes on both sides of the straps, and then I could remove these straps, not wash them, or wash them separately, and then have an additional long single strap that can button on for the halter top idea. So I am going to do both. I pieced this out of the next section of those straight edges. I'm pretty sure I don't have any usable bits left to make straps, at least. So the remainder of the straps for the remaining 1 camisole and 2 slips are likely going to be cotton. I'm moving right along. 1 done that I can wear tomorrow. Very exciting. And since I had pre-washed the fabric, I don't need to wash this before I wear it. I can just wear it and then wash it. And tomorrow I will work on the other 3. See how much I can get done. I did something today that I do not normally do. I came out and sewed in the morning, mostly because I wanted to get these slips and camisoles off my list so that I can work on other things. And usually I have my afternoons for sewing, and I really wanted to start on the black floral dress. But these were a top priority, and it feels really good to have them done. I just have this armful of snowy white, freshly sewn linen garments. That makes me feel good. I finished this one last night. I sewed the buttons and buttonholes on, and I guess it has modular straps. It can either have 2 regular straps or 1 halter strap, so those just button on. And then today I made entirely from scratch. Other than cutting out, I made entirely from scratch 1 new camisole. I did a lace edging on the hem just for a fun, different touch. And 1 new full-length slip. And by full length I really mean just above the knee. That's how long I like to have them. And this one I made with crisscross straps in the back. They are not removable straps, but I found that I missed having a slip that had the option to have crisscross straps. So I decided to just make this one fixed. And these two do have cotton fabric straps, but unless you're examining them really close, you're not going to be able to tell that I used a different fabric for the straps than I used for the main body. So that's good because I was completely out of usable linen scraps. And actually, these are all the linen scraps I have left. I only wasted a little bit of lace on pieces that I ended up not needing. So I can fit all the scraps in 2 fists, which is pretty good. And now I have about 20 minutes before I need to start cooking dinner, so I'm going to see how much of the black dress I can get done. Okay, I have now made and eaten dinner and come back and sewed some more so that I can try it on. One thing I really appreciate about this pattern is how quickly it goes together and how within the first 4 steps you have a bodice you can try on. Unlike some other patterns I've worked with recently that have a lot of complicated steps before you can have anything remotely able to try on. Anyway, the neckline binding is just basted on right now because I wanted to try something with the back neck. If you remember when I was cutting it out, I gave myself lots of extra room that I was planning to gather up to the back neck, but then I decided I didn't really think I was going to like how that would look in the back. So instead, I sewed up the back at an angle so that it's proper. This would be easier to show you on the table. Actually, I'm not sure how well you'll be able to see this at all because it's black on black. But basically, there's a stitching line right along the edge of this ruler. This is the top neckline edge. This is the waist, so I didn't taper the waist at all. It is the full width of the piece that I cut. And then if it does end up working, I will just trim off all this excess fabric and I'll be able to sew that seam open and finish the neckline binding. I don't know how well you can see this at all because of the aforementioned black on black. This is going to be really hard to film. And also before I finish the neckline binding, I do want to flat fell my shoulder seams, but I really wanted to try it on for fit first. I will also be flat felling the side seams because I want all of my raw edges enclosed. This fabric is going to fray like crazy if I don't do something about it. So here's how that looks from the outside, and you can see my lines of the vertical floral print are meeting at an angle, but my hope is when it's all gathered up, it will look more vertical and match up with the rest of the dress. That's my hope. But anyway, it is longer at the back than across the front because I'm going to have that channel for the gathering sashes, and I do know that this is going to be short-waisted on me. I didn't really have enough fabric to make the bodice longer like I did on my gray blouse, and I feel like that blouse is almost a little short-waisted on me too, even though I did add length to the bodice. So I was expecting this to be short-waisted, and I'm just going to be okay with it. I think it will be fine. It's just going to be the look of this dress that it's going to be high on a little above my natural waist. But I think I'm liking how it's looking. I think I like how the gathers are sitting. There is more fullness in the bust than the pattern called for, but the pattern is also not my size, so I'm compensating, and I do like the look of the fuller gathers. I think it looks nice. So I'm happy with that. I think I can go ahead and finish stitching down the neckline binding, and then I can add sleeves and the skirt, the channel for the ties, and hem it, and it's basically done. I am not entirely sure if I want to do it like the pattern calls for, with the center front seam being very visible, because it is going to be on the diagonal, so all of these vertical stripes of flowers are going to have a chevron effect. I have pinned it that way, and I'm going to baste it and just try that by holding it up to myself in the mirror and see if I like it. And if I don't, then I will take it apart, sew the straight side together and have that be the center front, and make these the side seams instead. Okay, I do think I like the diagonal center front seam. I'm gonna keep it as is. And yes, I am wearing my new Daisies dress. I will step back and give you a full-length view. I do really like it. It's comfortable and it's pretty easy to wear. I do have a couple of small gripes. Wearing it today also gave me a chance to try out my new halter strap camisole, which you can't see by design, but the first time I wore this dress, you could see my camisole because the sides under the arms cut in more than I was anticipating. If the dress were sewn together, rather than being a split side, like wraparound style, these two seams would meet here and it would be enclosed. But because they don't meet, they overlap, there's just always going to be a little extra under the arm, and I'm fine with that. I don't mind it, but I do prefer that my undergarments not show, so I like that I now have a camisole I can wear specifically with this dress that is not going to show. Except the strap does keep peeking up from the neckline at the back, which is not a big deal. I can live with it. So other than the gap here at the arms, which I could have compensated for a little bit more when I was making the dress, but I didn't really know it was going to be a problem until the dress was pretty much all the way put together, and by then it was too late, and I also didn't want to work on it anymore. I also wish that I had made the inside of the pocket larger, and I might still go back and piece in a bit because I do have some scraps of this fabric, just so that there's no chance of the opening showing. Right now, the outside edge of the pocket just covers that gap, so it's fine. Like I said, it is very comfortable. I do think it's very cute. And I think I mentioned previously that I was not sure while I was working on this dress if it was going to really read as a 1940s. I don't know if the fabric is a color scheme or a print that, you know, evokes the 40s. I feel like it's very modern. But then I was recently rewatching season 2 of Agent Carter, the one where she's in California, and we get to meet Jarvis's wife, Anna, who I absolutely adore. And I had forgotten that Anna's style is very different from Peggy's. Peggy wears a lot of primary colors, especially in the first season, and a lot of more somber jewel tones when she does stray from the red, white, and blue color scheme. But sometimes she wears purple or teal or hot pink. And this dress is very much not Peggy Carter's style, which was what I was initially going for when I was planning my 1940s wardrobe. But then I realized this dress is very much Anna Jarvis's style. She wears a lot of very bright colors and she has red hair. So I think I'm going to have some Anna inspired pieces in this wardrobe. This will of course being one of them. I think it works. I think it'll be good. I think I just need a hat that will go with this dress. I have a lot of hats, but a lot of my vintage hats are black, and frustratingly I don't have any black in my vintage wardrobe so far. I really need to fix that. I mean, I'm working on it right now. I'm working on a black dress. I guess I do have the black and yellow dress, but that is very much a special occasion cocktail dress that I don't have, you know, a reason to wear very often. This dress is going to be a much more everyday, easy throw-on dress. So anyway, I was kind of taking inventory of the hats that I have and realizing that there are some significant gaps in my hat collection that I will need to fill if I am going to dress vintage every day in 2025. And a hat that will go with this outfit is among them. I would also like a teal hat that will go with all of my teal outfit pieces. I've got the 2 pairs of pants and the 2 blouses, and I have confirmed that the teal blouses do go with the skirt that I made of this fabric. So I could also get a teal hat and be able to wear it with this dress and with the skirt as well. But I think a fuchsia hat is going to be a necessity. I'm going to try something a little unorthodox. So I made the ties for the dress, and I did decide to use the pattern piece from the dress pattern that has this tapered end here, and I did sew the fabric into a tube. So I'm actually deviating from the ties on the pattern that I took the ties from, this one, just to refresh your memory. So that pattern keeps the ties the full width of the pattern piece and just hems either side, which I could have done with this, but I decided I really want to keep sort of the integrity of the pattern illustration and keep the dress looking as much like the front of the pattern as possible. So it's just going to be the back that's going to look different. And since the ties will come around to tie in the front, I do want them to have that little tapered end. However, this fabric really hates being pressed. It's such a pain to iron. So I think there is some synthetic, you know, polyester content to it. So it really does not hold wrinkles, which will be nice in the finished dress because I will be able to just hang it up straight out of the dryer and not worry about having to iron it. And when there is a wrinkle in the fabric, I can iron it out very easily. But when I want to put a crease into the fabric, such as when I'm pressing the side seams open, it is very difficult to get it to lay the way I want it to. It just does not like taking a crease. Which brings me back to this tube of fabric, which doesn't want to lay flat. And I need it to lay flat. I want it to be a nice, flat, self-fabric belt. So the way I'm going to attempt to accomplish this is by using this wooden craft stick, which I will put inside the tube, and then I can press it. And because this is wood, it will be able to withstand the heat of the iron and it will be fine. I have done a similar technique before where I've used my long metal ruler as an interior pressing surface, basically. But this tie is definitely not wide enough for my ruler to fit inside. So we're going to try the craft stick, and I did sand this really thoroughly, so I'm hoping it doesn't snag the loose threads on the inside of the fabric, and I'm hoping it will work. Let's find out together. I'm going to push it all the way to the end and then iron as I'm pulling it back out. So far this seems to be working. Alright, we're to the end. So it sort of works. It didn't turn out exactly as I was hoping because the craft stick did not stay between the two sides of the seam allowance when I was squishing it down to the end. This is still giving me something to press against, so it worked like 80%. Okay, I didn't entirely escape snagging all of the raw edges of the fabric, but oh well. Okay, so I originally cut these ties from the piece for this pattern, which is quite long. But then when I decided I wanted the look of the other pattern, I used this piece from this pattern just to cut the tapered end so that I would have the ties looking like I wanted in the front. And now I'm thinking I am going to cut the length closer to this. So this is meant to be cut on the fold and made as just a separate tie belt that can be worn or not. It's an optional piece. But since these ties are actually going to overlap in the back where they're placed inside the gathering channel, I am going to make them a little bit longer, depending on really how it ends up looking when I put them in. So I can always insert them in the channel and adjust to how long I want them to be on the finished garment when I'm wearing it. Because the original one, the ties are quite long, both because it is a maternity pattern and because it wants you to tie a nice big bow in the back. But this one is of course not a maternity pattern, so it doesn't need all of that extra length to account for an expanding figure. But also, this little bow is much smaller than this one. It's kind of more cute and demure, so that is what I will be going for. I'm going to keep them the length they are right now, insert them in the gathering channel when I have the bodice and the skirt put together, try it on, cinch it up, tie the belt in the front, and see how long I want those ties to be, and then adjust from there. Can I finish this dress today? Place your bets now. All I have to do is hand sew the neckline binding on the inside, attach the pockets to the skirt, attach the skirt to the bodice, attach the sleeves to the bodice, make the waist channel for the ties, and hem it. I think that's it. Okay, just trying this on to test out the sleeves because I found I had two pieces that were left over from the ties, basically. And I thought, what if I turned those into cuffs and made the sleeves just a little longer? So I basted one sleeve with the way it was cut, halfway between the short sleeve and the 3/4 length sleeve, just to see. And then I did turn up and baste the hem so I would get a feel for the real length when it's finished. And then I also basted one of those strips along the bottom of the other sleeve, and I think I like that. I think I like the stripe going in the other direction. I think that's a fun little twist. I like the feel of where that lands on my arm, and I think it reads more as vintage. This is just an elbow length sleeve, and it doesn't feel of the right decade to me. I think this one, with it kind of cutting in the middle of my arm, feels more dated. This just seems, I don't know, just like too modern and matronly. This looks a little more chic. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I couldn't tell you why. This just feels right to me. Plus this way I'm using even more scraps. Gotta love it. Alright, I have the cuffs attached, and I am going to fold them in and whip stitch by hand to cover up the raw edges on the inside of the sleeve. Now normally I care a lot about matching up seams like this, but on this one, because it's black on black and from here I can barely even tell, I am not going to be bothered by it at all. I do need to press this really well. This fabric is so springy. Does that make sense? Like, it does not want to lay flat unless I press it within an inch of its life. I end up almost leaving the iron on too long, hoping to kind of melt the fibers a little bit to get them to crease. Otherwise they just will not. So I've turned under just the smallest amount possible on the inside cuff edge. Now, with this being the selvage, ordinarily I would have just kept it as is, but since it is a fuzzy selvage, I didn't want to be feeling that fringe on the inside of my arm. So that's going to get all nicely enclosed. And on this one, I have the name of the fabric manufacturer on there, and I kind of like that little detail. I could have folded it in a lot more just to cover that up, but it's on the inside of the arm, on the underside of the inside of the arm, so it's not like it's going to show ever. And I don't know, that just makes me really happy for some reason. Okay, I just attached the bodice to the skirt and tried it on, and I don't even have the ties in yet, but I freaking love it. Ah, it's so good. And the pockets. So it's going to have a cinched waist. I just need to do that part, but I had to try it on, and yes, I love it. Okay, I got my tripod out so I can show you. Okay, ready? Ready? Yes. Okay. Okay. I definitely want to shorten the ties by a good amount. They are awkwardly long. I mean, they really blend into the rest of the dress, but I don't need them swinging around in front of me that much. I want them to be about that long. So I want to cut off about 16 inches. Not from this nicely tapered end, I'll cut it off from the other end. You know, it's not actually as short-waisted as I expected. It is a little high, but not bad. So the tie is actually sitting right along the seam, which is nice. Oh, I like the back. Yeah, I like the sleeve length. I think it really came out the length that the pattern was going for. It just looks elegant, yet still casual and fun. Okay, maybe not fun, but it's very comfortable. Oh yeah, this is gonna be a new favorite for sure. Okay, so I did not 100% get the dress done last night, but it is so close. It just needs a hem, and I need to tack the, well, first I need to cut off the ends of the ties that are way too long, and then I need to tack them to the inside. But exciting news! Here is the back waist with the casing, and the drawstring ties are completely stretched all the way out so that there's no gathering in the waist currently. And I have well over the 16 inches that I want to cut off the ties. So that means even when it's stretched all the way with no gathering in the back, my drawstring ties will not get lost inside the casing. There will always be enough outside that I can pull them to draw them up. I love this dress so much. I just can't stop grinning. The last thing to do is the hem, and I'm noticing it is slightly longer in the front than in the back, like just maybe an inch, inch and a half. And I think I do want to correct that. I do think I want it to be the same length all the way around. But other than that, it's perfect. It's exactly what I wanted. I'm so thrilled. I love everything about it. I love this neckline. I love the scoop. I love the gathering. I love the very narrow, very dainty bias binding around the neck. I love how the sleeves came out. I really like the length. They're very comfortable. I think they look very classy. And I like that horizontal little cuff moment. Also, the width that I added to the sleeves I think was just perfect because I have full range of motion and they do not feel restrictive at all. They also don't feel baggy. They just feel just nice and loose. So comfortable. I love that it has pockets, obviously. I love how the front tie came out. I think this length of the ties is perfect, and I have to put my hand behind them, otherwise they just completely fade into, you know, the vertical print of the dress. They are so unobtrusive, and I love that. That's exactly what I was going for. I love the skirt. I love how it's flat all the way across the front. I think that's very flattering, but then also I love how it's gathered in the back. I also think that's very flattering. I love that I can put it on over my head and adjust it to fit, and it will always fit me and it will always be comfortable, and I didn't have to sew a zipper. I love it. I love it so much. And I have been wanting to make a dress out of this fabric for literally years. I don't even remember where I got it or how long I've had it. Most likely I just bought what was left on the bolt because it was like just enough to make a dress, and I knew I wanted a dress, but I didn't know exactly what pattern I wanted to use really until I made that gray rayon blouse, and it was like this one, this pattern, but in a dress. Oh, I love it so much. And it was really nice to work with, other than not holding a crease very well, but that was a minor issue. And really, I picked a good pattern for this fabric because it is very flowy and drapey, and you don't want it to have a lot of hard creases, especially because of all of the gathering. So the only time it was really annoying was when I was trying to press the seams open or press, you know, a nice flat tube for the belt. And it's just so lovely, so comfortable. It's going to be the perfect dress for fall, I think. Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really happy. I love it. Okay, for the hem, I'm going to do something I don't normally do, and I'm going to use my easy hem. It's upside down. What do you call it? Hem guide, I guess. It's made of I think aluminum. Anyway, I'm going to use this because this fabric, as discussed, it does not hold a crease, so I think I just need a little bit more help with this one. And this being metal will conduct heat on the other side of the fabric, so it will get sandwiched in between two hot plates, basically, and I think that will help to set the fibers a little bit better. That's my hope. And we'll see how it goes. I do want this hem to be really nice, and it's going to be kind of tricky because the front is curved, but then the back is totally straight. Why is there a 5/8 inch marking and 1.5, but no 1 inch? At least on the curved side. On the straight side, there's 5/8, a 1 inch, a 1 1/4, and a 1/2. What happened? Edna, I have questions. These are all of my remaining scraps. These are the biggest two. Most of them are quite small. And then I have these two 16-inch lengths of the tie belt that I cut off. And I think I'm going to sew them together and finish the ends and just make a cute little headband. So aside from that, I can fit all the scraps in one fist. Love it. Okay, I do love this dress. I do. I wore it today and I went outside with my kids in the backyard and I got so warm. It was almost a repeat of the black, red, and fuchsia floral dress situation where all of my heat was being trapped against my body, and yeah, this fabric does not breathe as well as I was hoping it would. I do think that there is a greater than 50% polyester content. I should really do a burn test to determine, but it does not breathe like a 100% natural fiber for sure. And that is disappointing. However, because I did make it with the longer sleeves and I intentionally made it as a spring and fall transitional dress, I'm not going to be wearing this in the summer anyway with the long sleeves and the black color. That's just not practical for Virginia summers, even if it was a fully natural fiber. So I think it's going to be okay to wear in the cooler spring and fall days. So it's not quite a perfect dress. It's this close to perfect. I do love it. It's still very comfortable for wearing around my house, sitting and not really doing anything. I was also working on some video editing this morning and it was very comfortable for that, so that's a plus. I'm also really not used to wearing black. This is kind of a hop out of my comfort zone. I did make the little headband that I said I was going to make. I really like it. I think it's very cute. I was showing this dress to my daughter last night, just saying, look, isn't this pretty? And she was like, well, I don't really like the black. She wanted me to add more colors to it and make it a rainbow dress. It's like, that's not how that works. She's 7 and she's used to wearing a lot of bright colors herself. She's used to seeing me wearing a lot of bright colors. So this is definitely different for both of us. I do like it. I like having a neutral dress in my wardrobe. I haven't had a black dress that fits me in a few years, so it's good to have one. Anyway, I do want to wrap up this vlog today. It is the 15th of September, and I really want to finish another garment, so I'm going to work on the other gray rayon blouse that I cut out back in June. I think it was June. So let's get to work on that. I'm debating if I want to do the darts on this blouse or not, because it actually has two different views. This one has darts in the front and in the back, and then these two are both loose. So this is the back with darts and this is without. I like the idea of the darts, but I do hate sewing them. Okay. I think I'm going to baste them and try it on, see how I like it, and then if it affects the fit negatively, I can always take them out. Yep, let's go with that. Okay, I was just reading the instructions and it turns out there are little vent openings at the bottoms of the front darts, which you can actually see in the pattern illustration as well, which is fascinating. And I think I do want to explore that, but not on this, because this fabric is very drapey and a little bit wobbly. It's not slinky. It has a texture to it, so it sticks to itself, if that makes sense. It doesn't slip around when you're trying to sew it. It's actually really nice to work with. But I think this style with those darts, and especially with the little vents at the bottom, would work better with a stiffer fabric like a cotton so I think I will just leave it loose. Okay, I have attached the shoulder seams and I have pinned the side seams so that I could try on and see what the bust darts are doing, and they are definitely doing weird things. Once again, these darts are pointing to just the weirdest spot. Why would anyone's bust be right there? I don't understand. So I'm going to adjust that and have them point to the actual bust point on me. I am wearing a bullet bra, so they're very pointy. It's the vintage look. It's supposed to be that way. I know. I'm still getting used to it myself. I think the neck is pretty good. It's going to be lower down, obviously, with the seam allowance, but I think it'll be okay. And I'm realizing I don't have buttons picked out for this blouse. Probably because I did my button shopping before I decided what pattern I was going to use when I was going to make this blouse. So let's go look in my stash and see what we can find. According to the pattern, I need 5 buttons. Let's see what we've got. Some white, clear, ivory, more clear. No. Maybe. No. Maybe. Okay, I really like these, but I think that they're going to be too heavy for this fabric, and I'm not planning to interface the button front. Again, really like these. Still think they're too heavy, and also a bit too ornate for this blouse. This is going to be a fairly casual blouse. No, definitely too brown. These are almost exactly the same. Is one slightly bigger? Or are they the same button? Okay, one of these is bigger. The rest are all the exact same button. Oh, that's wild. What happened? Okay. Once again, too ornate, although these are plastic and so much lighter than the other metal ones. So they would work, but no, far too fancy. More ivory, no. No. A lot of ivory buttons. They're just too warm for this cool gray. These again are metal. A lot more casual than the other ones, but too heavy. Too warm. Maybe. Much too warm. So these are all of my options. I kind of feel like these are just a bit too plain and boring. And same with these, honestly. I think I like these, and now that I know I have a lot more than I thought I did. Okay, so one is bigger. Okay, so I have 12. And if I use 5 of them, then I will have 7 left. I have a feeling, though, that I'm going to want my buttons closer together than on the pattern, just to make sure that I don't have any gaps in the bust. So I think I'm going to use 6. Okay, new dart is pinned. I definitely like that placement better versus way up here. Silliness. Well, I definitely lost bobbin chicken on that one. I got 3/4 of the way around the sleeve hem before I realized I was sewing with air. Well, I almost finished the blouse tonight. I might have finished it earlier, but I did have an hour-long video chat with my parents and siblings, which was a lot of fun, so that cut into my sewing time, but in a good way. So it is finished, except the buttons, buttonholes, and hem. And I do think I was right to not put the front and back darts in, because this fabric, being so drapey, I think they just wouldn't have sat correctly. They wouldn't have looked as crisp and nice as they would want to with this pattern. I'm not sure I like the sleeves, how they puff up at the shoulder here, and I might recut the armscye down a little bit and set the sleeve in a little bit lower so that it doesn't do that. I'm not sure how I feel about the tie. Hold on. Yeah, I don't know. I want to like this style of blouse, but I'm not sure if it's me. It might be a little too fussy. I don't know. Anyway, I do like the fabric for it. It's nice and lightweight and has that nice drape. So, I don't know. I guess it's cute. It's not bad. I don't tend to like things around my neck. I did cut down the neckline because I could tell it was going to be too high even with the seam allowance. So I cut off probably 1/2 inch, and then the seam allowance took it even lower. But I might lower it even more. I could still do that. Or I might just not put a button up there and let the ties cover that area. I don't know. In any event, I am going to end the vlog here. It is almost midnight and I want to go to bed, and I will start the next September vlog tomorrow. Alright, I'll see you soon. Bye. Okay. Pardon you? There's a face there. Are you gonna focus on it? Hello? So that's another good... Where was I going with that? Why is there a helicopter? This is a bad camera angle. Maybe I should wait until the car alarm's done. Okay. I don't know what I was saying. Focus on me. And everyone's mowing their lawn today.